Hello, dear viewers. I'm here today to share with you one of the greatest secrets of the Bible. Who were the Essene sect, and what was their hidden connection to Jesus? If you've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, you might have come across the name of this mysterious Jewish group somewhere along the way. But let me tell you, what we know about them is just the tip of the iceberg. The Essenes were a reclusive, deeply spiritual community that lived in Judea during the Second Temple period from around 200 BCE to 70 CE. Though their name isn't explicitly mentioned in the Bible, some scholars suggest that both Jesus and John the Baptist may have had a deep connection with this sect. In this video, I'll explore who the Essenes were, how they lived, what they believed, and most importantly, their impact on Christianity. If you're ready, let's step into this mysterious journey together. The Essenes. Who were they? The Essenes were one of the three main Jewish sects during the Second Temple period. The other two, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, are groups frequently mentioned in the Bible. The Pharisees were known for spreading religious laws among the people, while the Sadducees were an elite group of temple priests. The Essenes, however, stood apart with a more enigmatic profile. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus writes that the Essenes numbered about 4,000 and were spread across various regions of Judea. While many lived in small communities and towns and villages, some chose to lead an isolated life in the desert region of Qumran, near the western shore of the Dead Sea. Qumran later became famous as the site where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. So why did these people opt for the harsh desert life? Because they believed they were escaping the corruption they saw in Jewish society, particularly the materialism they associated with the temple priests and religious leaders. The Essenes' way of life was built on discipline and simplicity. According to Josephus, this community practiced communal ownership. They had no personal possessions or money. Everything was shared, from food to clothing, and they ate and prayed together. Their attire was notably plain, typically consisting of white linen garments, avoiding colorful or extravagant clothing. Their daily routine was steeped in spiritual discipline. They rose before dawn to offer communal prayers, worked throughout the day, farming, crafting, or copying scrolls to contribute to the community, and spent their evenings reading and debating sacred texts. This structured life was like a ritual that reinforced their devotion to God. Their simplicity makes me wonder, perhaps in our modern lives, stepping away from chaos and embracing a simpler existence could bring us more peace and fulfillment. The Essenes' desert life wasn't just physical isolation. It was a spiritual purification journey. The settlement at Qumran consisted of simple stone structures and caves. Archaeological digs reveal that their pottery and daily items were remarkably basic. The Essenes embraced this simplicity not as a necessity but as a choice. They endured the desert's harsh conditions while maintaining their faith and resilience. This resilience makes me think, maybe when we face life's challenges, we could step back, tap into our inner strength, and try a simpler approach to overcome them. The Essenes' beliefs and teachings. The Essenes' beliefs set them apart from other Jewish sects, adding to their mysterious identity. Like the Pharisees and Sadducees, they adhered strictly to the Torah, but they placed extraordinary emphasis on ritual purity and spiritual cleansing. They performed ritual baths every day and offered prayers before meals. These baths weren't just about physical cleanliness. They were seen as a spiritual renewal, a ritual to wash away sins. Praying before eating was their way of expressing gratitude to God. Through these practices, the Essenes turned their daily lives into an act of worship. Ritual baths held such a central place in Essene life that archaeological excavations at Qumran uncovered numerous mikvehs, ritual bath pools, specially constructed to meet purity standards. Water was drawn from natural sources, and the pools were refilled after each use. This attention to detail highlights the Essenes' meticulous approach to cleanliness. Their meal rituals were equally deliberate. A priest would offer a prayer before anyone touched the food, and another prayer followed the meal. This wasn't just eating, it was a sacred ceremony. The Essenes dedicated every moment of their day to God through these rituals. Another striking belief was their dualistic worldview. They divided the world into good and evil, light and darkness. They saw themselves as the sons of light and labeled others as the sons of darkness. This dualism is evident in the Dead Sea Scrolls, particularly in the Hymn Scroll, which contains poems praising God and frequently explores themes of light and darkness. Phrases like, "I walked in darkness, but your light saved me," reflect the Essenes' dualistic perspective. This theme later echoed in early Christianity, as seen in John 8:12, where Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness." Could this similarity be a coincidence, or might it hint at Essene influence? The Essenes also held strong apocalyptic expectations. They believed the end of the world was near, and that a great war, the final war, was approaching. This conflict would pit the sons of light against the sons of darkness, with God emerging victorious. The war scroll from the Dead Sea Scrolls details this apocalyptic battle, describing it like a script. The sons of light, adorned with white banners and chanting God's name, battle the sons of darkness, who bring chaos and destruction. The scroll predicts that after this war, a Messiah would come, ushering in God's kingdom on earth. This messianic expectation intriguingly aligns with Jesus' emergence and the birth of Christianity. Could the Essenes belief have inspired Jesus' teachings? This question invites us to dig deeper. The Essenes' spiritual discipline extended beyond beliefs into every aspect of daily life. They valued controlling anger, mastering their desires, and living with love within the community. Josephus notes that the Essenes were forbidden from showing anger and always maintained a calm demeanor. This discipline was evident in their interactions. For instance, if a member wronged another, they would publicly apologize, a step toward restoring peace. This makes me think, perhaps in our daily lives, offering a quick apology after a mistake could strengthen our relationships. The Dead Sea Scrolls and the Essenes. The Essenes' story took a new turn in 1947 when a Bedouin shepherd discovered ancient scrolls in caves near the Dead Sea at Qumran. These documents, known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, are considered one of the greatest archaeological finds of the 20th century. Dating from around 300 BCE to 70 CE, they include approximately 900 different texts, ranging from portions of the Torah to apocryphal writings and Essene-specific documents. These scrolls provide an invaluable resource for understanding the Essenes' beliefs, lifestyle, and worldview. The discovery of the scrolls at Qumran offers strong evidence that this area was used by the Essenes. The community rule document, for example, outlines the Essenes' internal hierarchy and the initiation process for new members. A prospective member underwent a year-long probation period during which their adherence to purity rules was tested. If successful, they entered a second year of probation, becoming full members only in the third year. This rigorous process reflects the Essenes' disciplined and selective community. Josephus corroborates this, noting that the Essenes carefully selected new members and subjected them to purity tests. The content of the scrolls sheds further light on Essene beliefs. The hymns scroll contains poems of praise to God, frequently exploring light and darkness themes, with lines like, "I walked in darkness, but your light saved me," reflecting their dualistic worldview. The War Scroll vividly depicts the Essenes' anticipated apocalyptic battle, portraying a scripted conflict between the sons of light, with white banners and chants of God's name, and the sons of darkness bringing chaos. It foretells God's victory and the dawn of a peaceful era. These texts reveal the Essenes as not just a religious group, but one with a profound vision. Yet, the origin of the Dead Sea Scrolls remains debated. Some scholars, like Norman Golb, argue that these scrolls might not belong to a single Essene community at Qumran, but could be a general Jewish library gathered from various regions and hidden there. This theory accounts for the scrolls' diversity, including Torah portions alongside apocryphal texts. Nevertheless, most experts agree that Qumran was an Essene settlement, and that a significant portion of the scrolls was written by this group. This debate only deepens the Essenes' mystery, prompting us to question what these scrolls truly represent. The scrolls' preservation is also remarkable. Most were written on goatskin or papyrus and survived thousands of years due to the cave's dry climate. However, some are fragmented, requiring years of effort to piece together. The Isaiah scroll, for instance, contains a complete copy of the book of Isaiah from the Torah, nearly identical to the modern Masoretic text. This demonstrates the Essenes' meticulous care in preserving sacred texts. Other scrolls include apocryphal works, like sections of the Book of Enoch, which weren't included in the biblical canon. This variety suggests the Essenes were interested not only in traditional Jewish teachings, but also in a broader spiritual literature. Jesus and John the Baptist, an Essene connection. Now, let's dive into the most intriguing part of this video. Were the Essenes truly connected to Jesus and John the Baptist? Though the Bible doesn't explicitly mention the Essenes, this doesn't mean they had no influence on early Christianity. Let's start with John the Baptist. In the Bible, John is depicted as a man living in the desert, leading a simple life, and calling people to repentance. Matthew 3:4 describes him wearing a garment of camel's hair and eating locusts and wild honey. This austere lifestyle closely mirrors the Essenes' isolated desert existence. John's baptism rituals near the Jordan River took place in an area very close to the Essene community at Qumran. Moreover, his baptism practice parallels the Essenes' daily ritual baths for purity. Some scholars believe John may have lived among the Essenes for a time and been influenced by their teachings. Researchers like John Bergsma suggest that John grew up in the Qumran community and later left to serve his people. His expectation of a Messiah, expressed in Matthew 3:11 with, "After me comes one more powerful than I aligns with the Essenes' apocalyptic beliefs. Yet, a key difference exists. While the Essenes were a closed community, John preached openly and invited everyone to repent. This suggests he may have taken Essene teachings and adapted them for a broader audience. John's desert life strongly resembles the Essenes' world at Qumran. Archaeological evidence shows that Qumran's water sources and ritual bath pools reflect a purity focus similar to John's baptisms. His harsh warnings like, "You brood of vipers," in Matthew 3:7, echo the Essenes' hostility towards the sons of darkness. These parallels suggest John might have Essene roots, or at least been influenced by their teachings. However, his outreach to the masses sets him apart from the Essenes' insular nature, indicating he forged his own path. What about Jesus? There's no definitive proof of a direct connection between Jesus and the Essenes, but some clues are compelling. For instance, the dualistic language in Jesus' teachings, light versus darkness, good versus evil, mirrors themes in Essene texts. In John 8:12, Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness," which strikingly aligns with the Essenes' sons of light concept. Additionally, Jesus' emphasis on simplicity and detachment from worldly pleasures recalls the Essenes' lifestyle. In Matthew 6:19, he advises, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth," a sentiment close to the Essenes' communal ownership. However, differences exist between Jesus and the Essenes. The Essenes strictly observed Sabbath rules and upheld rigorous purity standards, while Jesus took a more flexible approach. In Luke 6:6-11, he heals a man's hand on the Sabbath, sparking conflict with religious leaders, behavior that clashed with Essene discipline. Scholars like Joan E. Taylor propose that Jesus may have encountered the Essenes, but diverged from their strict rules, suggesting a parting of ways. This indicates Jesus might have been inspired by Essene teachings, but reshaped them to fit his universal mission. Jesus' possible Essene link extends beyond teachings to his lifestyle. His choice of 12 apostles and formation of a community resemble the Essenes' tight-knit groups. His 40-day fast in the desert, as described in Matthew 4:1-11, echoes the Essenes' spiritual purification rituals. Yet, unlike the Essenes' insular approach, Jesus' message reached all people, suggesting he built on their influence to create a broader vision. The Essenes' influence on Christianity. The Essenes' impact on early Christianity goes beyond Jesus and John. Their community structure closely resembles that of early Christian churches. For example, a sacred meal ritual involving bread and wine, described in the Dead Sea Scrolls, mirrors the Last Supper and communion in Christianity. The community rule details the Essenes' practice of praying before and after meals in a communal setting, paralleling Jesus' sharing of bread and wine with his disciples. Could this Essene practice have inspired early Christians? The Essenes' communal ownership also aligns with the practices of the first Christian communities in Acts 2:44-45, which states, "All the believers were together and had everything in common, selling their possessions and goods to give to those in need." This communal spirit may have served as a model for early Christian church organization. However, a distinction must be made. While the Essenes were insular, Christianity embraced a universal mission, suggesting the Essenes' influence was transformed through Jesus' teachings. The Essenes dualistic perspective also resonated in Christianity. The light versus darkness and good versus evil themes in John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Reflect Essene ideas. These parallels suggest the Essenes played an indirect role in shaping Christianity. Still, Jesus' universal message transcended the Essenes' strict boundaries to reach all humanity. The Essenes' influence may also extend to early church organization. Their hierarchical structure, priests and community leaders, could have inspired Christian roles like bishops and presbyters. The community rule describes Essene leaders guiding the group and making decisions, a pattern seen in early Christian communities. Yet, the Essenes' closed nature contrasted with Christianity's missionary zeal, indicating their impact was more subtle. The Essenes' spiritual teaching, simplicity, and discipline. The Essenes' most powerful message lies in their lifestyle of spiritual discipline and simplicity. They believed that distancing themselves from worldly pleasures could bring them closer to God. This deeply inspires me. In today's world, we're constantly pushed to want more and consume more, but the Essenes remind us that true fulfillment may lie in owning less and seeking spiritual depth. Their simple life makes me think, perhaps in our modern lives, letting go of unnecessary burdens could free our souls. Their simplicity wasn't just about material possessions. They focused on inner disciplines like controlling anger, mastering desires, and living with love in the community. Josephus notes that the Essenes were forbidden from showing anger and always maintained calm. This discipline was practical. If a member wronged another, they'd publicly apologize to restore peace. This makes me think, maybe in our daily lives, a quick apology after a mistake could strengthen our relationships. The Essenes' spiritual discipline was both individual and communal. They believed each person was part of a whole, and harmony depended on this unity. The community rule emphasizes love and respect among members practiced through caring for the sick and honoring the elderly. This community spirit makes me think, perhaps in modern societies, supporting each other more could build stronger bonds. Their discipline was a cornerstone of their spiritual journey. Rising before dawn for prayers, often in nature's silence, they sought to hear God's voice. This makes me think, maybe we could start our days with quiet meditation to bring a spiritual foundation. The Essenes practice offers inspiration amid today's busyness, visual ideas, and thumbnail suggestion. To bring this story to life, use Midjourney to depict an Essene settlement in the desert, with Qumran's stone structures, figures in white linen robes, holding ancient scrolls while praying. This captures their mysterious world perfectly. Add scenes with Google VO2 like wind sweeping sand or a scroll slowly unfurling for a cinematic touch. Show ritual baths around a water source to highlight their purity focus, and close-ups of scroll inscriptions for intrigue. For the thumbnail, I suggest an ancient scroll with mysterious writing, a solitary figure in the desert background, and bold text, "The Essenes Secret." Add subtle gold tones to the scroll's edges for a spiritual touch, and keep the figure's face shadowed to heighten mystery, drawing viewers in. Conclusion: the Essenes' legacy and lessons for us. The Essenes sect, a hidden community of the Bible, may have had a brief historical presence, but their legacy is incredibly powerful. The Dead Sea Scrolls preserve their beliefs, lifestyle, and apocalyptic hopes. Their possible links to Jesus and John the Baptist raise new questions about Christianity's origins. Yet, I believe their greatest gift is reminding us of the power of simplicity and spiritual discipline. They showed that a meaningful life can be built with less, but with deeper connection. After watching this video, I ask you, how might the Essenes' simplicity transform your life? In a world where we chase so much, perhaps it's time to pause and reflect. Can a spiritual life truly come from owning less? Maybe decluttering our homes or meditating quietly for a day could bring the peace the Essenes found. Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this mysterious journey, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's meet again in the next video to uncover another Bible mystery. Until then, goodbye and stay blessed.